Hi there, everybody. Welcome back to 3 News Now. I'm Stephanie Haney, and it's Friday, February 26th. Happy Friday to you, and thank you for choosing to be here for the top stories from WKYC.com and our WKYC app. And what a beautiful Friday it is. We are looking at a gorgeous weekend ahead of us, so we want to know how you plan on spending any time outside in this warmer weather this weekend, or if you have any photos of how you're doing it right now. So you can send those to us by texting photos to 216-344-3300. You can also send us videos through the WKYC app. There is a video explaining how to do that. You can find that on the WKYC Twitter page. I also retweeted it, so you can find it at _Stephanie Haney. It's super easy, and you can also post online using hashtag 3weather and comment on our Facebook post and let us know how you plan on spending the weekend if you're not already out there doing it. Now, this morning, our very own Betsy Kling took a walk in this beautiful weather as part of an initiative with the Today Show and Al Roker called Take a Walk with Today. So Al Roker walked to work today. Betsy Kling got out there, did some walking, and she surprised Al Roker. She was in the neighborhood of Shaker Heights, and Al said to her, "Betsy, are you in Shaker Heights?" Because he knows what that neighborhood looks like because his sister lives in Shaker Heights. And sure enough, Betsy said, I am in Shaker Heights, Al. And as a matter of fact, you know how Cleveland is. You just never know who you're going to see, including your sister." And Betsy was able to surprise Al Roker, who, by the way, used to forecast the weather here at 3 News WKYC, with an on-camera hello from his sister and her husband who live here in Shaker Heights. And Al said he was sitting there looking at the street, and he said, "I know that street." And they are both frontline workers here in Cleveland, by the way. He told them that they love them and they look fantastic. And then he let us all know that his sister had just recovered recently from COVID-19, and she was showing off an old NBC jacket of his that she was wearing. Great moment. You got to check it out. That's on WKYC.com. And also, a good reminder that walking is a great form of exercise. It's accessible to a lot of people, not everyone, but to a lot of people. And we've got information on why it's so good for you, even in the cold weather specifically, by the way. Turns out if you do some walking in the cold weather, it burns your fat a little bit differently, a little bit healthier for you to do it in the cold weather. But we've got warm weather this weekend, so that's good news. Now, the NAACP's Cleveland branch has announced a new executive director. It will be Crystal Bryant. Now, she's filling a position that's been vacant since 2015 after then executive director Sheila Wright stepped down after 2 years in service. So to take this position, Bryant will be stepping down from her position as director of the Cuyahoga County Office of Reentry. She has been called a person with strong community ties and also an expert in organizational development. Here's what Bryant had to say about the position. She said, "The work of the NAACP is now and will forever be instrumental in trailblazing and advancing social justice efforts for Black and Brown people. To play a vital role in what I call legacy work that has the capability to provide for and inspire future generations can only be described as destiny." She said, "It is my goal to build an infrastructure for the business of the NAACP that will allow the president and the members of the NAACP to thrive in the work that we all have committed to advancing." And then she went on to say, "The fight for economic and health equity and criminal justice reform is ripe. She is here to ensure the NAACP and all of its members have the tools they need to blaze a successful path." And then she said, "We are done dying." So congratulations to Bryant on earning that position as executive director of the NAACP of the Cleveland branch. Now, today in Washington, D.C., we can expect a House vote on the stimulus relief package, that $1.9 trillion stimulus package that is being championed by President Joe Biden. But here's what's going on with that $15 minimum wage hike. The Senate's rules referee, this is the parliamentarian, has said that the $15 minimum wage provision should be dropped, and so it will likely die in the Senate, even though the House will still vote on it. So Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi said that they will continue to keep it in the House because they believe it is necessary. Now, Elizabeth McDonough is an unelected, nonpartisan interpreter of chamber rules as the Senate's parliamentarian. She's often referred to as the Senate referee, which is what I just called her. She says the $15 minimum wage hike doesn't meet the strict requirements of reconciliation, which is the process that it's being used to fast track this COVID relief bill through with a simple 51 vote majority in the Senate rather than the 60 vote that would be required if they weren't using reconciliation. Here's the thing, though. Senate doesn't necessarily have to abide by that. Vice President Kamala Harris could overrule her, but the White House said in a statement that the president was disappointed in the ruling but respects the parliamentarian's decision. So that seems to signal there that we will not expect Vice President Harris to overrule that decision from the parliamentarian. The Senate also does have a long tradition of following the parliamentarian's decisions with very few exceptions. So the House bill will continue through the House. That's expected to pass today, and it will have the federal minimum wage hike of $15 in there that was hoped to be accomplished by 2025, and that would have more than doubled right now that minimum wage, which is at $7.25, and it has been that since 2019. Something else we expect to see today is a panel expected to recommend the emergency use authorization of the Johnson & Johnson single-shot COVID-19 vaccine. So, of course, we'll be watching for that as well. Now let's take a look at the latest COVID-19 numbers. These come from Johns Hopkins University. We'll look at the global and the national numbers first. Globally, the total number of reported cases of COVID is at 113,224,132. The total number of deaths is now at 2,512,154. Here in the U.S., we have 4% of the global population, but leading the percentage of cases and leading the percentage of deaths by a wide margin with 25.1% of the cases and 20.3% of the deaths. In the U.S., those numbers are 28,432,966 COVID cases and 508,997 COVID-related deaths. Here in Ohio, we have the latest numbers from the Ohio Department of Health. In the last 24 hours, we've seen almost 2,000 new reported COVID cases. That is down from yesterday, that number 1,976, and unfortunately 58 new reported deaths coming into the Ohio Department of Health in the last 24 hours. That is also down from yesterday. Taking a look at the testing, on Wednesday, there were about 44,600 COVID tests done, and 3.2% of those came back positive, so just over 1,400. We haven't seen low percent positive rates like that since October, so that is positive news, and the 7-day average is still at 4%. We've seen 167 new hospitalizations related to COVID in the last 24 hours, and right now 1,235 people are currently in the hospital. That continues to trend down, the total number of active hospitalizations, and so does the total number of people in the ICU, because out of those people, 308 are being treated in the ICU right now. And we saw 15 new ICU admissions in the last 24 hours. Taking a look at the status of vaccinations here in Ohio. Just over 814,000 Ohioans are now completely vaccinated. That's just under 7% of our population. We saw 41,300 new completions to vaccinations in the last day. And right now, about 1.6 million people have started the process to get vaccinated. So they've got one of those shots, because remember, the shots that are available right now do require 2 doses. That's about 13.5% of the population here in Ohio. Now we want to turn to a success story from a man here in Northeast Ohio who really came up from nothing, came here with nothing with his mother from Puerto Rico, and built himself into a successful businessman. His name is Jose Melendez, and he's the owner of Twisted Taino in Cleveland. And he went from living in his car to owning not one, not two, but 3 businesses. But it didn't start out that way. He did grow up in Cleveland, and that was tough for him at first because when he came here, he didn't speak any English. As I said, he and his mother came here from Puerto Rico, and after struggling, learning English, he graduated from Cleveland State, and then he built the foundation of his home, and everything started to slowly crash down for him. He was married. He did go through a divorce, and he said that nearly broke him. And after that, he found himself where he was eventually living in his car, and that's when he realized that he had to do something. So what he did was he took the cooking that he loved as a child, recipes from his mother and recipes from his grandmother, and he took that to a quinceañera expo, where he got the break that he needed. He said from that expo, he booked 3 weddings. Fast forward to today, now he's remarried. They have 5 children, and one of the businesses that he owns, that Twisted Taino restaurant in Cleveland, it was named Cleveland Magazine's Best of Cleveland for 2020. Congratulations to Jose Melendez. You can see more about his story on WKYC.com. And congratulations to Baker Mayfield, because ESPN has ranked him as the #1 college quarterback of the 2000s. Now, people do debate him as a professional football quarterback. I'm definitely happy with what he's done with the Cleveland Browns in his first year with a consistent head coach and lots of other things. That's the story for a different day. But if you take a look at his college performance, ESPN.com's Bill Connolly ranked him #1 out of the top 60 college quarterbacks of the 2000s. He said, yes, there were other quarterbacks who had better single seasons. That includes Cam Newton, Vince Young, and Joe Burrow. But he said Mayfield put together the most complete career of the past 2 decades. So here's that summary from Connolly. He walked on at Texas Tech. He won the starting job, and he threw for 413 yards in his debut game. But then he lost that job to injury. He ended up trading up to Oklahoma University, according to Connolly. And at Oklahoma University, the Sooners had not won an outright conference title since 2010. But Mayfield led them to 3 in a row with 3 top 5 finishes and 2 college football playoffs bids. And he ended throwing and rushing for almost 5,000 yards and 48 touchdowns, winning the Heisman and bringing Oklahoma within, as Connolly put it, an eyelash of the national title game. Here's what Connolly said. He was so good that despite non-prototypical size, the Cleveland Browns couldn't resist him with the #1 pick in the 2018 draft, and that is how we ended up with him today. So congratulations to Baker Mayfield. Big accolades from Bill Connolly over at ESPN. One more story before you go. These come from our neighbors in Indiana. There was an 8th grade boy who was in class, and he had a beanie on. And he didn't want to take his beanie off, so he got sent to the principal's office. Well, from there, it would be easy to hear the rest of this story, being that that kid had his parents called and he had to miss school and couldn't figure out why he didn't want to participate or why he didn't want to take his beanie off. Well, the principal, Dr. Jason Smith at Stony Brook Intermediate School in Indianapolis, took a different approach. He had a long talk with the student, and he realized the student was embarrassed about his haircut. He said that his barber had messed up his hairline. If you remember being in junior high, that can be really tough. And the principal said that he felt like it looked fine, but he talked with him and he said, if I fix your line, will you go back to class? So what the principal then did was he went out, he went home, he got his clippers, he fixed up the hairline to the young man's liking. And then after that, what happened? The boy apologized for his behavior. He went back to class and he was able to finish the day feeling confident and thankful for that exchange with that principal. And now the principal and that student have established a bond. They continue to talk about his future and plans for future success beyond the 8th grade. So he's getting a lot of praise, Dr. Jason Smith, online today for making that move and showing that leadership in Indiana and taking the time to really understand where that boy was coming from. Great story. You can see that on WKYC.com and our WKYC app as well. All right, that's it for 3 News Now for Friday, February 26th. I'll see you next up on What's New with your trending stories and Clicking in Cleveland. I'll also see you on 7 p.m. on Front Row, a preview of the podcast I have out right now about getting kids back to in-person learning. So make sure you check that out. Everybody have a great afternoon. Enjoy your weekend, and I'll see you back here on Monday. I'm Stephanie Haney.